My name is John Parker. I'm with Get Ready Central Florida, and we're an electric transportation coalition here in Central Florida. Our website's listed below here on this slide. It's plugandogonow.com. You can get some information on current activities, different events we have going on, and also has a list of the current charging stations throughout Central Florida and actually around the nation. So if you're in the area with an electric vehicle, you can log into that site and find the nearest charging station. I work for Environmental Protection Division, and we're going to be talking about environmental benefits. Also, I'm going to be talking about the electric transportation efforts in Central Florida. Over 50% of all air pollution is caused from mobile sources, mainly internal combustion vehicles that aren't well maintained. I just happened to catch this picture driving down Winter Garden Road in Orlando, and you can see all the black soot coming from the truck in front of me. They're 4 times more efficient than gasoline vehicles, zero tailpipe emissions, and just much cleaner for the environment. And with EPA tightening the standards on air emissions, we need to do what we can to prevent us from going into non-attainment. We had a dirty sock contest in our office where we actually wanted to see how clean these vehicles were within our employees. And we put a clean white sock over each vehicle. We let them idle for 1 minute. And then you can see as you pull the sock off all the emissions, the particulate matter emissions that come off the vehicles. And the winner would get a free oil change. But we do this for educational outreach events as well, just to let people know how dirty internal combustion engines are, and going electric would be the way to go. In 2010, former Mayor Crotty signed a memorandum of understanding with the Rocky Mountain Institute. We joined Project Get Ready, which is a national coalition, which actually international, because there are other countries like Canada, and I believe some European countries are involved in this as well. It just connects you with a group of cities that are committed to electric transportation. The Rocky Mountain Institute in Denver, Colorado spearheads this national group. We joined in, and we were the first Florida city to become a Project Get Ready city. And we also, the mayor wanted to mandate a 20% reduction in petroleum fuels throughout the county fleets. This helped to that effort to reduce our petroleum consumption. We are one of 9 cities that were selected initially for the ChargePoint America grant. And we had some strong leaders in our coalition. Distributors in Tampa, NovaCharge, went to California when they were making this initial selection, and then pitched Orlando as one of the key cities for this Department of Energy funds to set up Orlando as a key point for this infrastructure. And one of the reasons we wanted to have it in Orlando is because we have one of the biggest tourist bases throughout the nation. We have like 57 million tourists come to Orlando every year, so what better place to have them try an electric vehicle? And I'll get more into that in a few minutes. But this is just a picture of one of the level 1, level 2 charging stations. Actually, this is a dual level 2 charging station. We put 300 charging stations within a 70-mile radius of downtown Orlando. Public charging station criteria: anywhere people will congregate for at least 60 minutes or longer, mainly malls, restaurants, public buildings, theme parks. In this case, on the right-hand picture, it's the Central Florida Zoo, and in the left, it's the Florida Mall. So these are locations people are going to come to and congregate for at least 60 minutes. We also want it to be a high visibility, high traffic location. Visible from the street so people can see the charging stations and know they can come in and get a charge up to extend the range on their trip. Also, there could be no restrictions, no restricted access. It has to be an open public space to charge your vehicles. So those are pretty much the main criteria for this Department of Energy grant. A lot of them are going to be, like I said, parking garages, hotels, motels. We have some at the library here in Orlando. We also have some at community centers, senior centers, at the malls, like I said, and in restaurants. So anywhere people are going to be for at least 60 minutes or so, just to extend the range, to give them enough charge to continue on. Here's a picture of one of our street charging stations, downtown Orlando, right in front of City Hall. They put a curbside station in. This has been changed since then to a level 1, level 2. This particular picture is a level 1 station. And by level 1, I mean the 120 volt typical outlet is located inside a box inside the charging station. With these RFDI cards, we're able to open the charging stations and plug in to activate the charge. We then just plug in our extension cord for the level 1 charge, which is a 120 volt, or we can use the RFDR card to activate the level 2 charge, which is 240 volts. The level 2 chargers have the actual cable connection, the J1772 plug, which connects to your vehicle. And then on the left you see some signage we put up to delineate where the charging stations are located. These signs are by no way Department of Transportation approved. The thing is, people are putting signage up all over the country and they look different. Each state's going to have different signage for the most part. So what we're trying to do is work with the Department of Transportation to develop specific signage for electric vehicle charging stations. Here's a picture of some of the charging station locations in front of the Herndon Library. There's a strip mall with lots of shopping areas, but it's much easier to put charging stations in than we initially thought. You can tap into existing power poles, like on the left side of the screen. We have a street light with 240 volt accessible access where you can actually run a line preferably less than 150 feet, because anything over 150 feet you get some line loss, so we try to keep it within 150 feet of the power supply. And this is a highly visible site from the road so people could see the charging stations. And then on the right side you see one of the Orlando Utility transformers, which is another easy access to charge in. Again, within 150 feet of the power source is preferable to avoid any line loss. Near building or near the building or near source charging, where you actually construct a charging station connected to the building. And at the bottom you see how they actually did this. They have the wire conduit going underground and it just kind of runs under the cement into the charging station. So these are just a couple of ideas of charging stations away from the building, as we saw on the previous slide, but also charging stations close to the power source, which is on this slide. And also one of the reasons this could benefit the public is you can say it's VIP parking close to the building, very accessible. Directional boring was used here, so they didn't have to trench it. They didn't have to dig a trench from the charging station to the transformer, which is behind it. They could actually just bore down through the concrete and then underground do a directional boring, kind of like what they do with cable lines when you're hooking a cable line to your home from the junction box on the street. Underground boring, very less invasive as far as above ground surface damage, and it can be easily installed that way too. Here's workplace charging. That's another issue. A lot of companies want to put charging stations at the workplace to keep their employees happy, so they could, if they're driving somewhat of a distance from home to work, they can power up at work and get back home, so they don't have that range anxiety. But this is an example of what happened in AAA over in Heathrow, which is in Lake Mary. They put some electric charging stations in for their employees, and again they developed their own signage to delineate those, and they did paint the pavement, which is a really good idea too, because what we're finding out in Orlando is a lot of people are parking gasoline vehicles in charging station spots, which is really annoying if you have an electric car and you have an open charging station and you try to pull in for it and there's a gas car parked there. So we've seen a lot of problems with that. And one thing I've noticed, Winter Park, I think the city of Winter Park is working on some kind of enforcement measures to prevent cars, or at least fine cars, gasoline cars, that park in electric charging station locations. And speaking of range anxiety, AAA has a mobile electric charging vehicle, like this picture here. And they were initially deployed in the Tampa Bay area region, but basically they service the Central Florida area. I'm not sure where else they service, but these are what the mobile charging station vehicles look like. And if you run out of power, you could call AAA and they'll give you a charge up to get you to either the nearest charging station or get you back home. So it's just a mobile unit that helps to serve the needs of those with EVs. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some solar charging station projects. Orlando Utilities, as far as I was, put in the first solar charging station in their parking garage in downtown Orlando. There's a picture of that there. And it's not only solar. I believe it gets about 70% of its power from the sun, and the remainder comes from the grid. And again, it depends on if it's a cloudy day or if it's at night. At night, obviously, it's going to be grid connected. But you want to have these solar charging stations be both grid and solar connected, unless you live at a remote location and you have no choice. The city of Eustis also put in their own design of a solar charging station, which I think powers up think 3 or 4 charging parking spaces, which are just behind the solar unit. You can see like the yellow cones. And on the right, the University of Central Florida put in a solar charging station, accommodate 4 vehicles, and that's a different unit also. So you're going to see a variety of different solar charging station units being spreading up throughout Central Florida and throughout the nation. But we're the Sunshine State, we should take advantage of this. So I know the Convention Center is working on putting some solar charging stations in over there. And the Orlando Sheriff's Department put in a solar charging station on their roof. It's not one of these mobile like carport stations. It's actually panels on the roof, and then the power supply runs down, and it powers up their command vehicles and things like that. So it's really just supplementing the building power to charge mobile vehicles. Here's a picture of some prefabricated solar units, which is really nice if you're going to install one of these and you don't have to worry about design build planning. We realized a lot of times on many projects we involve ourselves with in Orange County, the design build planning takes up a huge chunk of money. So if you can buy prefabricated units that have the design build already in the specifications, it's going to save a lot of money as far as installation goes. So this is just an example of something we're looking at over at the Convention Center. We have several electric charging stations, but we're just going to put in some solar ones as well. Very highly visible locations. People see big canopy, solar panels. They know charging station there once we install these. And you can put several different bays as well from this solar unit. Metro Orlando classified as a leader in electric vehicle readiness after about a year of Get Ready Central Florida becoming a coalition. And again, let me just go back and Get Ready Central Florida consists of utilities, universities, now the Clean Cities Coalition, transportation planners, a variety of people involved with Get Ready Central Florida. I rely on the people over at Orlando Utilities and Progress Energy to help with the technical issues, and also some of our EV enthusiasts to answer a lot of the technical questions. But as you see, within a year of getting the Charge Point America grant, which had a lot to do with it, and putting in over 300 public charging stations within a 70-mile radius of Orlando, we became one of the 13 major cities in the nation actually to have charging stations. Media events, we like to showcase electric vehicles and charging stations together for the media, but also for just the public can see what the cars look like, like the Chevy Volt or the Nissan Leaf or the Tesla Roadster. We have a lot of, or the Fisker Karma as well, and the Ford Focus EV. We have several different models that come through Orlando, and actually I believe Ford is selling their Focus electrics here in Orlando, which is like the only place in I think the whole state that's selling them. But one of the key reasons that Orlando's benefiting from this electric transportation movement is because it's bringing in businesses. It's good for economic development. It's drawing in car manufacturers. It's drawing in charging station manufacturers. They're selling their products here. It's good for local business. It's bringing in the tech community. We have Apple that moved here in Central Florida. It brings in technology. It just brings in a lot. It's very helpful for the local economy. Realize you have to tailor your message for electric transportation to your audience, and we have outreach events catering towards fleet managers and building officials. Mainly the reason we cater to building officials is because we're working to streamline the permitting process from several weeks, which it was initially before we actually met with them, to a couple of days after we met with them and did some myth busting, because they had these preconceived notions that electric charging stations were going to tax the grid heavily, and there was all these things that weren't happening. So we actually met with the building officials of Florida and discussed ways we could streamline the permitting process, and it did help a lot as far as getting the infrastructure moving. For public events, on the top right, we have a picture of the National Plug-in Day event, which is working through the Sierra Club. And that was a great event and a very good location right along Lake Eola, right next to the farmers market, which was occurring concurrently with this event. So we drew in a lot of uninitiated people from the farmers market to come out and check out the electric vehicles. We had the vendors giving ride and drives that day, just to get people familiar with the cars. So that's what we really want to do. We like to have the ride and drives and the static displays at these events, just so people can try them, see them, and understand what electric transportation is all about. And the savings, actually, we mentioned this with fleets as well. the cost savings, the total cost of ownership of an electric vehicle. I mean, a lot of people see the prices a little steep initially for electric vehicles, but if you look at the whole cost of ownership, I mean, no oil changes, maintenance is very low. Gasoline's like, you get 3 cents per mile compared to 12 cents per mile. I mean, you're going to save a fortune in fuel costs. People can see the returns on investment of buying electric vehicles, and there are a lot of companies in Central Florida that are buying electric cars because of that. Electric vehicles are for a variety of uses. On the top you see Proterra's electric bus, and the neat thing about this is it can recharge in about 10 minutes from the top. At the top there's a little connector which a bay drops down, and you can recharge the bus in about 10 minutes at a really fast charge. And it's good for circulator commuters, like people in a circulator route for these public transportation buses. The top bus is used by the city of Tallahassee as part of their circulator fleet, but these are in effect throughout the nation. So excellent way to travel, zero emissions, very quiet. You can actually talk to each other on the bus without hearing the roar of a diesel engine. And below you can see some utility uses. FedEx is using them for deliveries, and the Ford Transit Connect came to one of our events, and they were showing their electric utility vehicle. Also Frito-Lay in Orlando, they use they have 10 electric trucks, although I believe the Frito-Lay fleet nationwide has about 2,000 of these vehicles. But here in Orlando they have a fleet of 10 electric trucks. On the bottom you can see the charging stations. At night they just overnight recharge at a slow rate, ready to go in the morning, and they can do 100 miles per charge, and they hit the Tri-County area, which is Osceola, Seminole, and Orange County. Here's a picture of some electric corridor planning. By that I mean we're trying to set up corridors, and we're trying to find charging stations between the two corridors. On the left-hand picture in the green is Tampa Bay, Get Ready Tampa Bay's community area, which is the electric transportation community for Tampa Bay area. On the right in the blue is Get Ready Central Florida and the Clean Cities Coalition. And we're trying to connect the two corridors. We're trying to have charging stations along I-4. We want that to be a main intersecting corridor for electric transportation. We want to have charging stations sporadically throughout the rest areas, preferably level 3 charging, which is the 480 volt fast charging, which will be ideal for rest stops. But in addition to that, we'd like to have some signage along the road where you usually see gas here, exit here for gasoline. We want to put some signage up, exit here for electric charging, and have it at restaurants and different businesses along the I-4 corridor within like a mile of the exit. Here is an example of some local electric planning. This is what we call Electric Avenue. It's right here in the International Drive tourist corridor. And this is an old picture because we have like roughly 100 charging stations between the Orange County Convention Center and the airport. So this just shows a few of them that initially went in, but they're mainly at some of the hotels, the restaurants, and some of the Walgreens actually along the International Drive corridor have electric charging stations. And so what we're trying to do is get tourists to rent electric cars at the airport and just use it as a commuter vehicle to reach their destinations. We're also trying to work with the theme parks to have charging stations installed there as well. And this is just an example of working with the permitting folks to streamline the permitting process. We actually got this from North Carolina Get Ready Coalition. They were advanced as far as working with the building inspectors to get the charging infrastructure worked out. So this is just something they shared with us, and it helped a lot as far as working with our building inspectors here in Florida. But this is just a little flow chart on if you need charging, how you should get it, and so forth, just to make it easier for residential as well as commercial charging. We recently became the electric transportation arm of the Clean Cities Coalition, the Central Florida Clean Cities Coalition. We're going to be working with them to share our information with the Department of Energy and other Clean Cities chapters throughout the nation. And I believe there's about 100 Clean Cities chapters nationwide. So we encourage people to join your Clean Cities Coalition in your area. We have 2 of them in Florida, but there are 2 others getting ready to start up, I believe, this year. One's in Jacksonville and one's in Tampa. And then there's one in Miami right now, and there's also the one here in Central Florida. So it's a good way to share your message with and help market your electric transportation events. We're trying to get better data as far as EVs registered in Florida. We're working with the Department of Motor Vehicles to see if they can somehow incorporate a way to track electric vehicles so we can get data from them as far as how many vehicles are in the state. This particular chart shows an increase of electric vehicles within a year. We got the data from vehicle vendors like Chevy and Nissan and so forth. But we really need a better way to do this, and we really need to go through Department of Motor Vehicles to see if we can work with them to ramp this up. And some next steps, we're planning to, like I said, 57 million tourists come to Central Florida. It's like the best tourist destination in the nation. We want, if we could just get 1% of the tourists to drive electric cars, we wanted to help market them through hotels, at the airport. Also, we're thinking at car rental agencies, areas like that, to see if we can ramp up electric vehicle usage. Once you try it and then you like it, you'll more likely buy one. So we think this will help ramp up electric vehicle consumption overall nationwide. A lot of hotels have rental car kiosks right inside the hotel, which will be a great way to market to the tourists. And on the left, there's a company called Cars to Go, which is out of Miami, and they have a car sharing program. And the highlighted area in dark there is their territory, where you can actually rent a car for a short period of time and then drop it anywhere along in that territory, and that's fine. So maybe we can do something like that with electric cars here in Central Florida. But we're working with the Electric Transportation Coalition, which is a national group out of Washington, D.C. They're like a think tank that came to Orlando, and they have a lot of money to throw at this, and they really think that Orlando will be a good test market for these electric vehicles to work with tourists and business travelers to let them try electric cars and then hopefully buy them. And this is a picture of our website. We have, like I said, Get Ready Central Florida is plugandgonow.com, and this is just an example of our homepage where we kind of list who we are, what we're doing as far as activities and events, and some charging station, like an area map that you can find the nearest charging station. And you can also contact us this way as well. And then below is some of our partners.